felt, with number one, just the actual size of the deficit. And we've all seen the dumb stats about like Kyle Shanahan is, 0 and whatever when he's behind by double digits in the fourth quarter, all that stuff. Like, we all know that's a stupid stat because every coach has a bad record in those situations, but we've heard those stats with him. And, all of the questions about Purdy and everything, like in the back of my mind, I'm like, this game's over. Like the Lions are going to win this game. And what an incredible thing. And just, for things to happen in that way, for a team to come back from a historic deficit, number one, you've got to have so many things going wrong in the first half, things that like sort of got fixed in the second half, but also just didn't. You mentioned these lucky breaks, and like, by the way, that's sports. Like, I don't know why we run from the idea that, oh yeah, you got to get lucky a little bit sometimes in sports, like especially in a single elimination playoff tournament like this. You've got to have some breaks. You got to have some bounces of the ball. And the 49ers certainly had some in the second half, and not even to get into the fourth down decision-making stuff. Like, I saw Ben Solak point this out on Twitter, that expected points lost by Detroit: Gibbs fumble, minus 5.5. The Ayuk reception off the face mask, minus 3.3. Josh Reynolds, fourth down drop, minus 3.2. Incomplete to St. Brown on 4th and 3, minus 2.6. Like, yeah, you got to have things go your way. They went the way of the 49ers, but obviously, again, a lot had to go wrong to get to that position in the first half. I definitely remember, and my biggest feeling I can think of early in the game, watching it and seeing the Lions just establish the hell out of the run. I mean, for you watching the game as a fan, that has to be so demoralizing because you knew this was going to be an issue. And we talked about the ways that it would be an issue, like schematically, for Detroit versus San Francisco. And that's exactly how it played out to start the game.
Yeah, Niners missed a field goal, and that Purdy hit, correct me if I'm wrong, but that could have been a personal foul at the end instead of a field goal. That drive, it looked like, I think he was bloodied up, right? So wasn't 100% all lines, but yeah, definitely breaks on the SF side. The one thing I'd mentioned on the way over on the car ride is I hope the Niners shored up the defense against the toss. I mean, Bosa talked about it after Aaron Jones. The Packers averaged 9 yards per carry against it the week before. Yes, one came on that long 50-yard run, but they were clearly vulnerable. And then the opening drive, they open up with multiple tosses and just and get gashed. And it was interesting, a couple of the Campbell decisions in short yardage. He doesn't run when you think he is, and then he passes, or then he runs when you don't. When he does, the timeouts are so crucial at the end. But they were getting dominated against the ground, the Niners, and secretly they were, you look at the EPA numbers, they kind of like the Cowboys, not really as good against the run as their overall numbers suggested because of game script. Teams had the third most pass attempts against the Niners this year. They're often not able to run the ball like they wanted. But even missing Jonah Jackson, that Detroit offensive line was impressive, and Montgomery was awesome. Gibbs was impressive. So yeah, that was demoralizing. And when you have a big deficit against a team running the ball like that, it wasn't they were ahead a lot because of a fluke here, fumble lost here. They were getting, beat up, and it looked like the Lions might be able to control the game clock in that second half down, 17 points. So not only did they come back, but it was crazy they erased that 17-point deficit in like the first 7-8 minutes of the second half.
Yeah. What do you make of the struggles on defense for San Francisco? Because obviously this is going to be a big talking point as we go into the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks here. Is it a schematic issue? Is it an issue up front? Like what is at the heart of San Francisco's struggles generally to stop the run? I mean, that has become a massive issue, and it was always going to stand out against Detroit, like we said. But overall, this has just not been the same. Like, I thought it was kind of crazy, people coming into this weekend, like, yeah, the 49ers defense just as good as the Ravens. Like, and I know the Ravens lost, we'll talk about it, but not even close. Like, schematically, metrics-wise, like, it's just not, it hasn't been that type of defense for quite some time now.
No, the Chiefs defense is unquestionably playing better football. I don't know the answer to those questions, specifically run defense. I mean, their defensive line has been addressed and healthy. I mean, Chase Young the Niner fans are very disappointed in his play recently. Pissed. Bosa got home a couple sacks. He had been sackless in like 4 straight playoff games, but you knew the pressures would eventually get there. But yeah, the run defense is a suspect right now, and they're going to have 2 weeks to address that. But yeah, I don't know the reason behind it. I know Wilkes has gone from coaching candidate to will he be fired, if they had lost this game. So it is his first year in the system. But ever since week 11, They lost Hufanga, the safety.
Yeah.
But it also coincides with a much tougher schedule. I think Aaron Schatz pointed that out in DVOA. If you strip week 18, when they saddle their starters and you look at the schedule, it's not the one player missing. It's been all the difference. So, they're certainly not playing their best football entering the most important game of the season. That's for sure.
But they are pulling it out at the end. Like, results wise, that's what matters. If they win the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, nobody's going to remember like, oh yeah, but they weren't playing their best football in January, late December, whatever. Like, we'll just remember that they won the Super Bowl. I do think obviously when we're previewing that game, when we're talking about that game, that's going to be a big talking point. But regardless, like, I think there's like we talked about in the playoffs, there's an element of luck to it. There's also an element of like just getting the job done. And Purdy has certainly not been perfect. There's been issues, but I'm curious what you thought of his performance yesterday, because I think it's going a little underrated. Like, obviously, I thought Rich Rebar, I'll bring up another smart person here. Rich Rebar, Lord Reeves on Twitter, had a great point about this, quote tweeting the sideline toe tap completion to Kyle Juszczyk late in the second half. Like, that was a great throw, but as Rich points out here, yes, Purdy did complete a pass off the face of a defender that should have been an interception, but he also made several off-script plays that were great plays. 2 completions to Juszczyk, including this one on the sideline toe tap catch I was just talking about. 1 to Jennings on 3rd down, and scrambles of 21, 21, and 10 yards. I mean, I did not have 5 for 48 on the ground for Brock Purdy on my bingo card, but when we're talking about why he is better than Jimmy Garoppolo, why he has elevated, of course, we all know, like, it's not an insightful thing to say he's elevated by the situation and he has great supporting cast around him. We all know that. That's all accepted. But I think when we're talking about what makes him stand out and what makes him a great player in this environment and a better player than some of the other guys we've seen, like, those scrambles are a great way to say it. I mean, he is very good off script, and he's willing to throw off platform. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo could never and would never make any of those plays. I think it's a big reason why. And look, they went to a Super Bowl with Jimmy. They're going to a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy. He obviously has to win the thing, I think, to cement this gap for many people. But for me, like, watching those plays, like, they're coming back. They're easing these deficits partly because of his playmaking ability off script.
Well, the Niners 1,000% lose this game if Garoppolo is the starting quarterback.
Right.
On one hand, though, this is a crazy stat. The Lions entered this game as the first team in NFL history to allow 300 yards passing and multiple touchdowns in 5 straight games. That's the stat, supposedly. I don't know if that is true. Double check if you want, but suppose it's the first time in NFL history, not just playoffs or anything, that a team's allowed 5 straight games, 300 yards passing and multiple TDs. So it's a good setup for Purdy here. And he did not come through with some massive fantasy line. That said, 8.6 YPA again, and he just made I don't think it's crazy to say the difference in this game was his legs. I mean, a couple of those rushes were just massive, so huge, and then timely. And then the other play to Jennings, 3rd and Jennings, it was his only catch of the game, and he's calling it the greatest catch of his life. But that's such improvisation to even get the ball there by Purdy. So yeah, the same short shuttle speed as Lamar Jackson, right? It showed this game. It was impressive. And he didn't slide once either. He's going forward. Yeah. I mean, taking the hits, bloodied up. But yeah, man, we love BCB. But once again, some shaky moments. The pick could have been another pick. So yeah, he is blessed when it comes to these defenders somehow not catching his passes as much as his receivers. Our guy Ayuk, I will say, dropped a key 3rd down that ended a drive before. That was a great pass by Purdy. At least from the stadium and the replay I saw, looked like Ayuk should have caught it. But of course, he more than made up for it when that highlight reel pass. Oh, did he score or not? The guy did touch him, because I was kind of upset Shanahan didn't challenge that. But
I thought he did. My first instinct was that he had scored and that he didn't get touched. But I don't know, looking back on it, maybe I think he probably should have. It was worth a challenge. I'll put it that way.
Yes, exactly. Shanahan. He doesn't challenge the 4th down play for Devonta Smith last year that resulted in a touchdown instead of getting the ball at midfield. So why in the world would you challenge there?
He's got a weird relationship with those timeouts, man. Yeah. I mean, even at the end of the game, it was like, I think it was 2 timeouts for the Niners and 3 for the Lions. Like, well, that was the biggest, for sure that was going to happen. If one coach was going to have 2 timeouts and the other was going to have 3, it was definitely going to be Campbell to Shanahan there.
Yeah, that was burned weirdly. And then I'm very curious what, if justice wasn't served and Ayuk didn't catch that touchdown to end that same drive on 3rd and goal, curious what Shanahan would have done there on fourth and goal down with double digits. But he would have had a decision there, and he probably would have kicked the short field goal. But yeah, where were we? So excited about all this.
No, I mean, look, it was awesome. The Ayuk catch is one of the craziest bad breaks for the Lions, and just really unbelievable breaks for the 49ers. But again, like, this is how it happens, okay? You can go to the Super Bowl being like a, quote, flawed team. I think neither one of these teams, Kansas City or San Francisco, is a perfectly smooth operation. And really that's going to come into play when we talk about Baltimore later on, that there's no guarantees with these things. Like, you can go to a Super Bowl, you can win a Super Bowl being a deeply flawed team, but it doesn't really matter. Like, as long as you win. And I don't know if I just don't know if there's something I definitely think there's something brewing in Kansas City. We're just like, yeah, you know what? Things aren't going well. Like, at the end, we know we can pull this out. I feel like San Francisco is sort of kind of starting to get that belief in itself as well. And I think a lot of that stems from confidence in just the overall players in this ecosystem. And man, I mean, you could just go down the list talking about huge plays from McCaffrey, huge plays from Debo, the 3rd and Jennings, like you said, obviously Ayuk coming in clutch there with the conversion, the touchdown, and just the insane play to catch it off the face mask. Like, these guys are popping up at critical moments. But then Juszczyk, like we said, he's had some incredible moments here. They're just such a well-built operation on offense that they have definitely been messing with the margin for error, but they have a huge margin for error because of the guys they have there.
Yeah, that juice catch on the sideline was nice, and more Purdy improvisation where I think that's when we looked like he was surely going to get sacked. So yeah, Purdy had his moments just like last week, and his down moments, and certainly his reasons why they won the game was just his plays. I mean, it was outside of Shanahan's system for a few of them, but yeah, he's definitely shaky at times, and it's like, there's no excuse for rain this week, early on there. So, but yeah, without question, the Niners lose that football game by double digits if that's Garoppolo at the quarterback. He ain't coming back in that situation. Debo, by the way, forced 8 missed tackles on 11 touches per PFF. Is that good? Playing with the banged up shoulder.
What a crazy player.
Yeah, insane.